Hey everyone, welcome back to the Living in Maryland channel where we discuss all things living here in the great state of Maryland. And today we are discussing if you are moving to Fort Meade, Maryland, what you need to know. And we're going to discuss all those things today in this video. And let's get started right now. All right, so the first thing I wanted to discuss is just in general, a little bit of traffic and kind of some things to consider depending on what type of commute you are looking for. Now, we do have a good amount of traffic here in the Central Maryland area, especially as you get closer to Baltimore, as you get closer to DC. So all those things make sense, I'm sure. Now in Maryland, we've got the Baltimore Beltway, which is $6.95. We've got the DC Belt, which is $4.95. So if you are wanting to keep your commute manageable, I always recommend to people to maybe stay away from anywhere where you are going to have to deal with the Beltway. Although there are some great areas in greater Baltimore, especially in the county and things like that. But if you are dealing with the Beltway, it's going to make your commute, definitely longer. It's going to make it, a little more miserable when it comes to getting to your work in and around Fort Meade. Same thing with the DC Beltway. There's some great areas in Montgomery County, PG County, but if you are having to deal on a daily basis with the Beltway, $4.95, that one is probably even busier than $6.95, depending on this, certain parts of it. So if you are wanting to manage that commute, I always recommend maybe staying more in the areas in between $6.95, Baltimore's Beltway, and DC's Beltway, $4.95. And those areas look like, along the 95 corridor, along the 295 corridor, around 100. There's a whole bunch of areas right in that Central Maryland area. A lot of it are made up of Howard County, you've got Anne Arundel County, you've got northern parts of PG County, and even some parts of Montgomery County where you don't have to deal with the Beltway. But those areas in there are going to offer a lot of great areas for individuals, for families, as far as living. And then also they're going to make that commute a lot more manageable for you. So something to keep in mind when it comes to your work commute to Fort Meade. All right, next is wanted to mention just mentally preparing for the cost of living, especially the cost of housing out here in Maryland. I know I talked to a lot of folks who are coming to Fort Meade and to Maryland from a lot of other parts of the country, right? Midwest, further south, and they're just, always shocked by the cost of housing here, which makes sense. The people who are coming from north or maybe all the way out from California out west, they're not as shocked when it comes to cost of housing, but a lot of people are, depending on where you're coming from. So when it comes to BAH out here, what I'm seeing right now, I just looked it up recently here, we got E1 with dependents starting just over $2,500 for BAH, and then E9s with dependent are right around a little over $3,200 a month. So that's what you can expect to be receiving as far as your housing allowance. Now, when it comes to buying a home, your typical townhome, it's going to vary based on zip code in certain parts of the county and what county you're in. But a lot of, your typical 3-bed, 2.5-bath townhomes are going to start at least in the mid threes and then go up. And then a lot of your detached single families, depending on what type, so your smaller splits and ranchers are going to definitely start somewhere in the mid to upper fours and on up. And then your larger colonials are definitely going to be in the fives and going straight up depending on overall size and location. So depending on that, you may not be able to get a mortgage to fit within your BAH box as far as what you're going to be getting for that. But it is something to just kind of keep in mind with the higher cost of living out here, specific to housing. Just kind of something to mentally prepare for and kind of come up with a plan so you know exactly what you're looking at budget-wise when it comes to housing, which of course for most people is going to be the largest line item in their budget. So preparing for that can be very helpful. And again, finding a rental within that BAH range is definitely doable for most people. So, but when it comes to buying, if that's something that you want to consider, sometimes once you get north of that $450, $500 price point, it might be difficult to keep the mortgage payment within your BAH amount. So something to keep in mind, especially if you are considering looking to buy a home here in Central Maryland. Next thing to know about coming here to the Fort Meade area within Central Maryland is just how close you are to so many different things. So within 30 minutes, give or take, I want to be clear on that. Within 30 minutes, give or take, you are within 30 minutes to Baltimore. You're about 35 to 40 minutes, depending on traffic, to DC. So having both of those metros and both of those cities so close, it just really opens up those opportunities and those doors for things to do, with the family, with friends on weekends, evenings, and things like that. So you have so much opportunity with that. Then you've also got Annapolis, the capital of Maryland, really close. Just an awesome, old historic town down there, where you have opportunities to just kind of, eat out, and a lot of entertainment things there as well. And then of course, just the beauty of the bay being, on the water and things like that. Now, when it comes to outside of 30 minutes, we've got Ocean City and Bethany. Bethany is going to be once you get into Delaware, but Ocean City is kind of like a Maryland staple. You've got that about 2.5 hours away from pretty much, Fort Meade and surrounding areas. So if you want to get out to the beach, that's very doable. And a lot of people make that happen every year. It's kind of like I said, a staple for a lot of Marylanders here. And then Deep Creek is in Western Maryland. That's about 2.5 hours away, and that is kind of an all four seasons area to go. They got a great lake, so springtime, summertime, amazing, fun things to do out there. And then they've got, skiing and snowboarding. They've got some, decent sized mountains up there as well. So all year round, that's an area to get to as well. And it's under 3 hours. So just making it, very doable to get out there and do a lot of fun things here in the area. As always, just like to mention that I am a licensed realtor here in the great state of Maryland. So if you ever have any questions on what it looks like to buy or sell a home here in the area based on your specific goals, please feel free to reach out however you are most comfortable. We are always available and would love to have a conversation with you about your real estate goals. Next and lastly, just wanted to jump into a few areas to consider. And of course, this can be dependent on a lot of things. So feel free to reach out if you ever have any questions based on exactly what your needs are and kind of what you and your family may be looking for. But first off, I want to start with a few areas around Fort Meade. These are going to be areas all within about 30 to 35 minutes of Fort Meade. First off, we're starting in Anne Arundel County. So you've got Odenton, Crofton, Gambrel, Severna Park, even Arnold is a little further out. These are a lot of popular areas in my experience and dealing with a lot of clients over the years of areas that people are going to. And then within Odenton, you've got a few master plan communities that are very popular. So Piney Orchard, Two Rivers. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions about specific areas. But these are very popular areas. In addition to that, you've got parts of Glen Burnie, you've got Pasadena, other areas as well, Hanover, that are popular. And there's some nice areas in all of those. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions on that. But that's going to be Anne Arundel County. And those are probably going to be some of the closest areas because Fort Meade is located right outside of Severn within Anne Arundel County. So especially areas like Odenton and Gambrels are going to be, 10 to 15 minutes or less from Fort Meade. Next, you've got Howard County. Howard County is a very, overall in my experience, working with buyers and sellers, a very desirable area, especially within schools. If people are targeting schools for their kids, Howard County tends to usually be at the top of the list for that. So you've got areas like Laurel, Ellicott City, Columbia. And then as you move west within Howard County into Western Howard County, there's some popular areas as well, such as Marriottsville, West Friendship, and Mount Airy. So some very popular and highly desirable areas within Howard County as well. Next, Prince George's County. You've got areas like Bowie, Laurel. A little further down, you've got Upper Marlboro, although that tends to kind of be at the top of, the commuting time that people are willing to do. So a lot of people don't necessarily go south of Bowie. But those are some popular areas within PG County that a lot of people like, and I've had a lot of positive feedback from people as well. Then you've also got parts of Montgomery County, such as Silver Spring, Burtonsville. But again, this is starting to get out on closer to 45 minutes commute time. So sometimes people are just not willing to deal with those kind of commutes. You've also got some nice areas within Baltimore County, but then kind of going back to the first thing we talked about today is just kind of dealing with the Beltway that can really start to throw a wrench and really start to add up the commute time to get to Fort Meade from those areas. So again, a lot of desirable areas for people here, very close to Fort Meade, just depending on what you're looking for, depending on your lifestyle and what might fit best for you. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions about specific areas and what might be the best fit for you. As always, thank you so much for watching the channel here. We look forward to seeing you at the next video. Take care.